Hello everybody, it is Wednesday, and yes, another Mortal Kombat video. These videos just keep coming because the story, so to speak, keeps developing, and I decided to just chronicle it because it is kind of interesting, right? All the noise and all the, stuff like that, all the really intense emotions that kind of surprised me aside, some interesting things start bubbling up that I feel deserve notice. If you like this sort of content, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK. These videos, I've made like 3-4 of them now. 2 of them I've had to fight the monetization on. And the problem with that is by the time the monetization gets turned back on, guess what? A bulk of the traffic has not been monetized. It's really annoying. But the story so far, for people who have not seen one of these videos before, and that's unlikely because thanks to a few smaller gaming websites who picked up on my comments, I've gotten a fair bit of exposure, pardon the pun, on my thoughts on the Mortal Kombat costumes. But of course, the story so far has been, I initially said I didn't mind the less revealing costumes. I thought they were cool. I thought, the extra floor space, so to speak, on the women's costumes allowed them to be more interesting. However, I did note, based on your feedback, that the men are significantly less clothed compared to the women, which ironically is a reverse phenomenon to something in my college lectures I call the He-Man and She-Ra tests. If you line up your characters, if the women are not, notably less clothed than the men, congratulations, your game passes the He-Man and She-Ra test. This is sort of the reverse He-Man and She-Ra test. I learned that the He-Man and She-Ra test actually works both ways. And in this case, if you line up the men and the women in Mortal Kombat, unlike in, He-Man and She-Ra back in the day where he was showing chest, she was showing a lot of leg, we don't have that in the female Mortal Kombat characters. They seem significantly more heavily attired than their male compatriots, so to speak. I then talked about benevolent sexism, and that's the thing that a lot of the videos picked up on. I then became aware of comments made by one of the higher ups at NetherRealms that worked on Mortal Kombat, and he said that they made a deliberate choice to make, the ladies' costumes more respectful and mature. And at that point, I'm like, I'm not buying this game anymore, because if a company has been intentionally disrespecting women for all this time, well, we've been defending them all this time, saying, no, it's not disrespectful. They give as good as they get. The whole game is fantasy. The men are shirtless, in Shao Kahn's case, also pantless. I approve. It's not disrespectful for the women to just basically be dressed like figure models, which, if nobody knows what a figure model is, it's basically like bodybuilding light for women. I know because my sister did it for a while, and the costumes look very much like that. They tend to have, it's mesh a lot of the time, but they tend to have a very open front and very high cut. They're body suits. They want to show off all the muscles. Yeah, I said, I basically cannot support a company that was knowingly disrespecting not only its female characters that, a lot of men saw as waifus. There's a lot of people who have Melina as a waifu, which is kind of scary, but hey, I don't judge. In response, I got a lot of people getting very nasty. People get defensive of their games, and the people who are okay with the costume, revamps, makeovers, who are also okay with the reasons, and I'm not saying all of them did this, but a surprising number of them used words like they were dressed like strippers or sluts or whores. And this is where I went, have none of you been paying attention? The fact that people are still in current year judging a woman's, we'll table the stripper thing for a minute. That's a separate thing. But calling somebody a slut or a whore, which, has to do with behaviors based on the way they dress, we should be beyond this now. If in doubt, I would really like people to take the word slut completely out of their vocabulary, because it's not a word applied to men. But the word whore, I'm in favor of legalizing prostitution. So I would just whore to become a profession like anything else, like boxer or, mixed martial artist or anything else that's physical, like a bodybuilder or a gymnast or, something like that. Basketball player, just fine. It's a business, not an insult. I would like that done, please. The stripper thing. The funny thing is I've seen a lot of burlesque. I've seen a lot of, exotic dancing, stripping, all that stuff. When they start their outfit, they tend to be pretty fully clothed because they want as many things to take off as possible. You got to stretch that 3.5 minutes, in some cases 5, depending on if you're a headliner, you do multiple songs, but you got to stretch that, right? And so there is no stripper dress code. Believe it or not, really, there is no stripper dress code. Strippers dress like cowboys and schoolgirls and cheerleaders and all that stuff. But here's the thing, those costumes look like cowgirls and cheerleaders and firefighters, sexy cops and things like that. But no, there's no, and those outfits in Mortal Kombat, no stripper would ever wear those because they're too hard to get off. You can't just go whoop, and it's done. It can't be undone elegantly. So no, those are not stripper costumes. Get it right, asshole. But let's be real. These aren't, they're not thinking about what they're saying. They're just coming out with this decidedly gendered, sex negative slur based on an artificially high policing of women's sexual activities and manners of dress. And this is the core of the whole topic. You can't say that you're covering up your female character to be more respectful, because true respect for a woman doesn't disappear based on how little she's wearing. Everybody, men, women, and everybody else, should be able to respect a woman bare ass naked. Because if you can't respect a woman when she's naked, you don't have the right to see her naked. That respect has to persist. You can't just go, oh, do this for my comfort or do this to earn my respect. No, completely missing the point. And I think it's very interesting that the people who are opposed to the less sexy female costumes seem to get this idea for the most part. Because they're not the ones going, you just want to see pixel titties, or they're dressed like strippers before. They're not slut shaming. They're not being sex negative. They're the arguments I've seen are basically the whole thing's ridiculous. What's the issue? And we like these women because they were tough and strong and out there and bombastic. The argument is not, you took away my tits and ass. It was, why are you shaming us? Things were fine. And I don't think anybody would have really minded if they went back to sort of Mortal Kombat 2, Mortal Kombat 3-ish, because some of those later costumes got a bit silly. I think it really depends character to character, right? Because I know some people had issues with Sonya's Mortal Kombat 10 costume, but she's in the armed services. In the plot of the game, she wouldn't be dressed with a giant open shirt. I don't think people had the same issue with that as they did with the Edenia Katana and Melina's realm. Because that was sort of, garden paradise, not our world, so the rules really didn't apply. And I think that's when people started going, oh, come on, you're taking away the fun. And one of the things I heard people say is that their issue with this additional pressure on female characters is it ends up resulting in female characters that are boring compared to their male counterparts, at least boring looking in their opinion. I don't necessarily agree in Mortal Kombat in, Jade's case, for instance, or Scarlet's case, because Scorpion and Sub-Zero are pretty covered. It would be kind of cool to have them kind of in the Lin Kuei gear, all that stuff, but they're not Lin Kuei. I know, I was just being silly. But, making them more sort of ninjas in certain characters' cases, but like Melina, like the sexuality, the duality of the fact that, she makes everything else really va-va-voom because, she's got this like Baraka face. I think that's sort of integral to her character. Even in Mortal Kombat 10, she was like showing midriff. So it's not the people opposed to the costume change that seem to have the attitude problem. It's the people defending it on the argument that, well, they were dressed like sluts before. Well, sorry. For years, everybody was of the understanding that there was no disrespect intended, that it was just fun and everything was over the top. Liu Kang and Johnny Cage were apparently allergic to shirts, so where's the harm? And now the existing the fan base that is okay with the changes seems to be less respectful than the people opposed to them. And when that happens, that means your design decision is going in the wrong direction. And I'm going to leave it there because I think I've made my point, and I'm getting error messages from OBS. Still fighting with that. So if you like this video, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK. Thanks for watching.